All right, cool. So we're just releasing players from positions of need now, just all willy nilly. All right, cool. Got it. Now, look, I'm just hoping there's a plan here and for this team because we're at week 9 and we still have no clue who we are. All right, welcome back to Cardinals Daily. I'm Eddie Law. If you're already part of the squad, hey, appreciate you for riding with us and being a day one supporter. If you're new here, smash the sub button. It really helps out the channel, and the more we grow, the better content we can bring you guys. So, let's get right to it. So the Cardinals today announced they have released running back Michael Carter and DB Darren Hall. The Hall one, I get. We have DBs everywhere. But releasing Carter when the run game is probably the weakest part of our offense is strange to say the least if you don't look through, I guess, in between the lines, right? So we're just over a week away from the trade deadline or so. I think it's November 4th. So is this a signal that Monty's actually going to make some calls and make some moves? Or is it just another directionless move by our front office, right? This Cardinals offense was meant to be a bully offense, right? With James Conner, right? Under center looks, double teams, duo, counter, split zone, stuff like that. And then you can use that play action to get to Trey McBride, MHJ, Michael Wilson, Zay Jones, whoever, right, on the perimeter. Well, when it's unscripted and healthy, sure, beautiful, right? James Conner is a hammer, and the line is physical, and you feel defense is wilt. But when games tighten, Conner gets hurt, you have injuries everywhere, the box gets heavier, safety step down, and our run game becomes linear and predictable. We don't threaten the edges enough. We don't, punish over pursuit consistently, and the explosives are too scarce, right? The identity is right, but without Conner in there, we have no gears. With Conner in there, we're missing a second gear. What I think this move is more about is Trey Benson's coming back. I think they're signaling that Trey's ready to come back and take over being like the hammer that James Conner really is. But you still need a backup to do it with. Right? Now, if it's not Trey Benson, by the way, Bam Knight has shown the ability to do similar things that Trey Benson can do. So it might be that we're letting Carter go to bring somebody in to be that second gear for a Bam Knight, for a Trey Benson, or for a James Conner next season should he come back healthy enough to play and we actually keep him. So the Carter release is not about him being a bad player because he's not. It's about roster clarity, right? He's a solid professional, but he doesn't give you that blink in his 28 yards threat that forces these defensive coordinators to back off. If you're going to be a power team with closing speed, your second and third running backs need to be able to do one of two things at a high level right now. Either exploit the daylight, right, on outside concepts, either a toss, a crack, or pin pull, or dominate in protection so you can live in heavy play action without tells. So what Cardinals basically done is say we need that roster spot for a skill set that we don't have right now. And that message is pre-deadline. It's not panic. It seems to be precision. It's calculated. There's a reason they're doing it. So cutting Carter right before the deadline, to me, screams we're shopping for traits. We're shopping for somebody that can do things Carter can do plus more and at a higher level. It's not just any running back. It's a specific running back, I think. So what are we looking for here? We're looking for a running back that can catch and run, a hybrid that forces nickel looks and opens light boxes for whoever, whether it's Trey Benson or Bam Knight, or you're looking for a running back that can block. They can help block at least, right? It just kind of depends on what you're looking for here. Trey Benson didn't play enough to show us that he can actually block anybody like effectively for a while. And so you're looking for a guy that can at least do some of those things, or at least be able to, release quickly, turn around, and be an immediate target for a Kyler Murray or Jacoby Brissett, right? To me, it's the team letting us know that something big is coming. Something we've been wanting for a few weeks now. Something I've been calling for ever since James Conner went down. I think what's coming, I think it's a tell. I think it's a signal. They're getting ready to make a swing, and all signs point to one name, Breece freaking Hall, right? Breece Hall is a walking prototype. 4.4 speed, first cut nuclear acceleration, can punish a 7-man box or make a 2-yard crack into a 45-yard nightmare. He forces safeties to back the hell up big time and instantly makes play action to Trey McBride and MHJ and whoever else unstoppable. A healthy Kyler and Breece in zone read, that's just emotional damage at that point for the defense, right? This is exactly what Kyler's never had. This is exactly the trait Arizona has been missing when it enters the fourth quarter in close games, where we keep losing. So why now? You don't release Carter, 72 hours before Dallas, more 72 hours before Dallas, days before Dallas game by accident. You don't do it days before the trade deadline unless you're freeing a roster spot before the music stops, right? Here's the spicy part. The Jets are fed up. They hate their offense. Their owner's publicly calling his players trash, especially his quarterback, which is hilarious because if you guys know, Tyrod Taylor was supposed to start for the Jets, and he got hurt. And that was like a day or two after their owner trashed Justin Fields, which is hilarious as well. And then Justin Fields had to start for him, and he made sure the owner had to eat his words, right? But Jets fans are pissed about the lack of vision. So Brees Hall's immediately available if the right offer hits the table. And the Cardinals, we got the draft capital, we got the money. We're not. What we're trying to see is if we're going to go into a rebuild, or we're trying to weaponize, Kyler and his offense right now, and while the division kind of eats itself, right? Somehow the Seahawks end up being in first place with the 49ers losing and us not playing. And this isn't really like fantasy football talk. This is who Monty is, right? He goes calculated aggression, not fireworks, not passive. He's strategic, what it seems like he wants to be. I want to see him be ruthless, right? Be a long-range thinker. Brees Hall, to me, is a 3-year, 4-year investment. He's not a rental, right? Cutting Michael Carter's at the end of something is the beginning. So Arizona didn't release running back depth. They cleared a seat for an engine-changing, DC-paralyzing piece. And Brees Hall's the guy who turns the Cardinals from efficient to dangerous. Right? You put Brees next to Kyler, McBride, MHJ, Benson, or Knight, you become a problem in December, right? So you become a team nobody wants to see in a one-score game. This move was a signal. If Monty pulls this trade, it will go down as an identity solidifier of the Kyler era, in my mind. And Bird Gang, don't look backwards at Carter. All right, look forward at what just opened. And the name that fits that seat perfectly is Brees Hall. I said what I said, right? Hell, getting Hall might save Cardinals' career. If Hall comes in here and helps solidify, Kyler Murray, right? Helps solidify him, helps him get in there and do what he's got to do. He could end up being like the quarterback that we need. I know we're just talking here, but at the same time, it's possible. All right, it's very possible. So let's see what happens here. See if we get the Brees Hall trade going, and then it'll signal what we're trying to do. Keep in mind, if we don't do anything, that's about as much of a signal as we could need. If there's no move for a running back or for any improvements whatsoever, Monty's tapping. Monty's tapping on the season that was very promising before we started, and now we're just kind of like, same old Cardinals once again. Now, one thing that really bothers me is this came out today. I know a lot of people can't stand PFF or Pro Football Focus, right? The players seem to dislike them quite a bit, but they're popular enough with fans that they get what they say gets around, and really, doing what they're suggesting we're ready to do would be a signal to fans that we're definitely waving the white flag on this season. So keep that in mind, right? I hope it's not what we're doing, but if this happens, it's going to be a signal that we're sellers, okay? So multiple outlets are now listing Calais Campbell, right, as a guy, as a legitimate trade candidate ahead of the deadline next week, including PFF. And now look, that hurts emotionally because I love Calais Campbell. He's, you could add him to that list of great Cardinals. I mean, maybe he didn't reach the heights of a Larry Fitzgerald, right, with Arizona, but he's right in there with a Patrick Peterson type, a Honey Badger type, and Tyrann Mathieu and stuff like that. So, but I think he's head above shoulders those guys. Honestly, I think him and Patrick Peterson would be two guys that aren't Larry Fitzgerald level in terms of Cardinal lore, but are still very respected veterans and very respected, in my mind, Arizona legends. So that's what that is. The emotional pain is there. But logically, it's going to be a clear signal that that Monty and Gannon are ready to pivot from hanging around to fully building the next era. Let's unpack what that really means. So first off, context matters. Context matters. Yeah. The Cardinals have lost 5 straight one-score games. They're in the only division with 3 5-win teams. And ESPN has their playoff odds at like 3%, which personally, I'm like, look, man, unless we don't make any move, unless we make a move this week or next week, that's probably about accurate, if not zero, right? That's essentially the league telling you your season is on CPR and the paddles are unplugged. Now look at Calais Campbell, 39 years old. 1-year deal, no long-term commitment, still playing pretty well. 3 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, 11 pressures, 15 straight years of 71 plus PFF grade. That is exactly the exact definition of a high-value short-term rental for a contender. This isn't about really giving up and more about accelerating the timeline for the next version of the Cardinals defense, right? Because here's what we're looking at. Darius Robinson's ready to play more. And Walter Nolan III is hopefully going to be cleared to return soon, if not already cleared. And you don't draft those dudes to sit behind that 39-year-old legend forever. Monty's a roster architect. That's his job. But, he's a kind of like a ruthless but smart type of guy. And this move screams, we love Calais, but we're not in a 6-month window. We're in a 3-year window. And if the Cardinals move him, it's not disrespect. It's actually a massive vote of confidence in the young guys that we have in that room. This is literally clearing the runway, not really burning the future. right? And here's where it gets kind of spicy. You don't really find 300-pound grown men who still win with technique and violence, still play 70 plus PFF run defense, still offer leadership for playoff locker rooms, right? So there's reports saying the Chiefs are looking at him, the Jags could be buyers, Bears, Packers, all of them really make sense. For the Chiefs, they had someone to help, Chris Jones. Have you seen Chris Jones lately? He's like a giant version of Kyler. Things don't go his way, he kind of just stops and he kind of just pouts and all stuff. But getting Calais Campbell in there would at least put a fire under his butt. Like, hey, look, if you don't want those snaps, bro, come on, man. I'm 39, but I'm still doing it, right? The Jags need this exact kind of grown man anchor. Now, they're making a surprising run, even though I don't believe they're that good. And obviously, we're going to see him here in the Valley in just a few weeks. But I think he could definitely be a guy that really pops that leadership in there. The Packers, look, LaFleur loves leadership and violence on top of that, right? Can you imagine Micah Parsons and Calais Campbell on the same damn line? Those two guys are alpha dogs in one locker room. Is insane. And the Bears' young roster, they need a tone setter, so that could be there too. Although they're not really making any moves. I don't think you send Calais Campbell to a rebuilding team if you're already a rebuilding team. I think you send him to a contender, out of respect at least. So this isn't the Cardinals, exactly bailing on this season. It's them acknowledging what stage they're in. So, doubling down on the long-term win, right? Calais Campbell's a legend, a Cardinals legend, 100%. Moving him would be, could actually be an honor, sending him to chase a ring one last time, right? Meanwhile, it says loud and clear, Josh Sweat, you're the alpha dog in the room now. Walter Nolan, time to play, dude. It's your time. And Darius Robinson, time to make a statement and show us that we didn't screw up drafting you. Plain and simple. This team is not passively waiting. They're actively rebuilding building the defense of the future right now. So don't see it as a funeral. See it as a transfer of power, I guess, right? And move that honors the past while feeding the future. If this happens, it's not panic. Again, it's precision, right? Bergen, hit the comments, man. If Calais gets moved, who do you want to see take his snaps? Because again, he's an older dude. He's up there. He's damn near 40, if not 40 already, and he's still doing it at a good level, good high level. But you got to look at what we have now, being 2-5, and being just days away from the trade deadline. I don't think you can have the luxury of waiting until that Monday night game against Dallas to make a move. But I think you need to make a move for that, right? So it just kind of depends on what we'll see. I wish like we were playing today and not next Monday, I wish we played yesterday and not next Monday, because we would get that signal already, right? Whether we're going to be good enough to go for a playoff spot, or if we're going to just, start chopping heads now and get a move on. Guess we'll have to wait and see here. And again, if you're going to move Kyler, I guarantee you the Browns and the Dolphins would pick up the phone. I just think so. This is me personally. Who knows? All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Cardinals Daily. I made it loud. Don't forget to hit that sub, hit that bell, hit the like, leave a comment. Again, the comments, you guys keep piling them up. There wasn't enough this last video to add them to this one. But pile this one up. Let me know. Should we keep or move Calais? Do you think we should try and move? Do you think there'll be some wild stuff like moving Kyler at the deadline? Do you think we're finally going to get Breece Hall? Like I'm hoping we do? Let me know. And if none of those names interest you, who do you think we should go after? And who do you think we should look at moving? All right, folks? Again, hit the sub, hit the bell, hit the like, leave a comment. Catch you guys tomorrow. As always, go Cardinals.